Welcome to Buddhaland Podcast. This is Stacy. Today I'm joined by Rajan Sakya, CEO of KGH Group of Hotels, Travels, Resort in Nepal, and founding director of the Museum of Nepali Art. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rajan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be in your platform, and I will try to answer as much as questions I can from my heart. So thank you so much to all your viewers for listening to us. And I hope people can get motivated and encouraged through the little bit of talk that we do in this podcast.
I'm sure they will. Let's start with your family name, Sakya. It traces directly back to the ancient clan into which Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, was born. The Sakya community in Nepal has preserved that identity across more than 2,500 years of political upheaval, invasion, migration, and culture change. That is truly extraordinary. Can you tell us what it means to carry that name today?
Actually, it's a great responsibility to have that name, and it's a great honor to be associated somewhere, somehow through the great Lord Buddha. As far as I know, I don't know if we are directly the descendants of Gautama Buddha Sakya, but our lineage goes back at least nothing less than 6 to 7 generations. And we've always had the last name of Sakya. It is not something that we adopted or one of my ancestors adopted it. As far as we know, we are the Sakyas of the Kathmandu Valley as well. And how we migrated into the Kathmandu Valley, of course, the documentation is always a problem as far as when you want to go that much back in history. But said in all, there's always, like, the way that I believe is, I don't need to be a lineage of the great Lord Gautama Buddha to have compassion. I think everybody in this world, there is a Buddha in them. And it doesn't matter if their last name is Sakya or not. And I think as long as we practice, we believe in the goodness of the world and the goodness of what we can do to the world as not only being living for a lifetime in this great place called Earth, but when we live this lifetime in this earth, as long as you can do something good, not for yourself, not for your family, everybody does that, but you do something for the greater good of humanity and the greater good of community. I think the word Sakya itself holds so much, it's so precious. I have been very lucky to be born into this family where we practice Buddhism, where we practice Hinduism, and doesn't matter which religion you practice, as long as you are good, that's what it is all about. But having the last name and coming from a legendary family who established the tourism in Nepal, because the hotels that I own, that I run, is one of the first hotels in Nepal. And so for me, I feel the responsibility that I should do something better for the society and for the country that I represent, and also the people around me who are not so fortunate as I am. I've been very lucky in so many ways. The stars have aligned for me to be where I am today, and I'm able to contribute this goodness not only to the people of Nepal, but also to all the people who come and stay with me, people who come to visit my museum. And it gives me that responsibility, and I want to fulfill that responsibility to the best I can.
That's very beautiful. And it's also very touching that you feel this sense of responsibility carrying that name and also for your environment, even beyond Nepal. You just mentioned your family hotel, KGH Group, that your father, Kana Sakya, founded in 1968. And now you are the CEO. It is a leading hotel chain with properties in Kathmandu, Pokhara, and Lumbini, 3 places that together feel like a journey through the heart of Nepal. And your hotels have welcomed notable figures from around the world. It is clear that you are building something beyond a business. Can you share more about the larger vision behind?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we started the Kathmandu Guest House, which is the flagship of my company, back in 1968. And like anything in the world, the beginning was very humble. We actually started with only 4 rooms back in 1968. And at that time, tourism had just started to open to the international world because Nepal was still closed to the outside world for a very long time. And in the late 50s and the early 60s, Nepal opened up. And by the time we opened the Kathmandu Guest House, there was only about 5 to 6,000 tourists a year that would come visit in Nepal because it had this spiritual meaning to the people outside in the world, because it was still a very closed country. And a lot of the people understood Nepal as the Shangri-La, And so, like I said, a very humble beginning. And then we kind of snowballed as the tourism developed, as the people started coming into Nepal, the hotel grew bigger and bigger. And I took over the business in 1996. So it's been 30 years that I've been in the business of tourism. And as soon as I graduated from the university in the US, I came to Nepal and I took over the business. Of course, when I said took over, it means my father and my brother was also very much a part of it. And we then kind of expanded our hotels in different parts of the country, mainly in Pokhara, Chitwan, and in Lumbini. And now I am actually in the process of creating about another 10, 15 hotels. We should be ready in about another 4 to 5 years. And so all these hotels are going to be, so I've kind of changed the vision of how the new hotels are going to be. I'm a bit tired of making big hotels in big cities. So all my new projects that I'm doing is actually in rural areas of Nepal, and in rural villages where there is a source of spirituality. If you look at the dynamics of Nepal in the past 15 to 20 years, there's been a lot of rural migration. So a lot of the people leaving the villages, coming into the big cities. I think that is a problem in all of the world, not only in Nepal. And so a lot of these amazing villages that has spiritual value are left. There's nothing going on there except for a couple of houses. So my vision for these all new hotels that I am going into are to revive this rural economy. And so yes, when we talk about business, finances are extremely important. I understand. But my vision for making the new hotels is not only about making money, it's about trying to help the rural economy into establishing itself as a destination. Because one thing you really have to understand is Nepal is a very spiritual place. I mean, yes, it has amazing mountains, it has amazing flora and fauna, but more of that, I think the real reason that people come to Nepal is they find a certain kind of spirituality in the place, because, of course, we have Lord Buddha born here, and the people are so naive in comparison to the other people in the world. They're very basic, but very happy.
Yeah. Very kind.
Yeah, and very kind, and you see more of that in the villages, and I don't want that to be lost. And it is extremely difficult while the rest of the world is progressing so much. It is not fair for people like us who come from big cities to tell them you should live the way you are just because you enjoy a couple of days going to the village. So we should be able to provide that kind of facilities of living in the 21st century, but yet appreciating the rural and the kindness and the compassion of these naive people, you know. So you can't ask a certain sector of the community to say, oh, you should live the way you are, like you were living in the 15th century, whereas you are enjoying everything of the 21st century. Is it fair? It's not fair, you know. So I try to go into these communities to provide the best, whatever it has to do with the 21st century, yet maintaining, sustaining the amazing lifestyle of what they've been doing. So trying to do that, of course, it's not possible that it will be successful, but I run a quite a successful business right now. And for me, when I open these hotels in these rural areas, I don't have to worry if a certain business make money or not. I can sustain. And so this is not only a part of the expansion of business, but this is actually a part of expansion of who I am as of a person. I'm not saying that I'm a very humble person. Of course not. I'm not a kind person. I'm not a compassionate person. There is always a devil and always an angel in every one of us. But I want to take out the angel part more
Uh-huh.
within me and try to be helpful as much as I can to the people who have not been so fortunate as I am. And so all my work that I do, I want to be based in Nepal. I do get a lot of opportunities to work in China, in Hong Kong, or anywhere else in the world. But I think if people like me abandon countries like Nepal, then we lose a lot of our soul in so many ways, and I don't want to lose my soul. So this is how I see myself. This is how I see the growth of the business. So any kind of growth of the business should be meaningful, and I want my life to have meaning, so that as we come towards the end of our lives, I want to reflect back and say that I was not a cancer to the society, but I was there more to be helpful and to aid people to have a better life and appreciate whatever they have. So, as of the expansion of the business, I am actually right now we are in the progress of opening about 4 or 5 new hotels. But like I said, in amazing places that people didn't realize it existed. And when you go to these places, some is up in the mountains, tucked away in a valley, and it has this amazing temple. And there's a community that lives and who is so environmentally friendly. They don't consume like the rest of the world living in big cities like Kathmandu or Hong Kong. We know how to do is consume electricity, consume energy, consume everything that we do today is just for consuming and not giving back to the society. I mean, like when I say give back to the society, doesn't mean giving money, that not being a burden to this amazing place called earth. The greatest of the gods were born here. And the most evil of the evil was also born here. And today we have this little bit of compassion because people knew how to give back.
Yeah, thank you for being so honest. I can see your current vision is how to preserve what is Nepal and by connecting the cultural heritage and modernity. I have a lot of friends from Nepal from all walks of life, and I do find that people really think very differently. There is a completely different sense of time and space and
Yeah.
interpersonal relationships. Sometimes it is a headache, but you can feel that people are so pure. So, yeah, when it is ready, please let us know what are these new locations. And I'm sure a lot of people would love to check it out.
I think one of the best locations that I'm actually going to build is a place called Ramgram. I don't know.
Ramgram. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know the place?
Is it Ramagrama Stupa? You mean
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
Lumini?
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Ah, I see. Uh-huh.
So if you go to Ramagrama Stupa now, right now, at present, if you go there, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. There is just a mound
Mm-hmm.
and there's a tree. And as you know about the history of Ramagrama, that is the only place in the world where a relic of Lord Buddha still lies.
Mm-hmm.
I can give a whole 5 hour
History.
podcast on Ramagrama. But
Yeah.
when I went there, I actually went there just recently, only about 2 years ago, and I fell in love with the place. Although it has nothing, and if you even go right now, there is not even one public bathroom that people can go there and use it. And when I saw this place, a lot of the people when we travel to see. We never travel to feel. We have become so obsessed with seeing and touching that we've forgotten the core value of being human being is to feel. And it is not necessary that you visually see a place or you visually see a thing to appreciate. I mean, like when you go to Ramgram, isn't it amazing that you are actually standing in the same place as where a part of Buddha is?
Yeah, that place is very special.
So when I build the hotel, I'm not going to build this gaudy 5-star hotel. Places like Ramgram is for the world. It's for the rich. It's for the poor. It's for people. So when I build any of my new hotels, I don't cater to the luxury people. The rich people are very selfish. They think of God, they think of spirituality, and they need them, and they are in trouble. But for a common person, God lives in them every day. They wake up in the morning, do their 2 prayers so that they can just have a good day or something good happens to them. And we have ignored these people who make the majority of humanity. Whenever people are building a hotel or something, they are always thinking like, oh, I'm going to make the best of the best. I'm going to have the best
The
amenities,
most luxurious.
most luxurious. But you want to come to a place like Ramgra, I want you to come as a person who is spending just a second in this world and just trying to appreciate the goodness a person did 2,600 years ago. And today, we are still trying to understand how to be a good human being. So, when I built this hotel in Ramgram, which I'm planning that I'll finish the first phase in 2027. And the way that I promote the hotel is, if you want to see, go to Lumbini, go to Kathmandu, go to the temples, go to the stupas. If you want to feel, then come to Ramgram. Not as a person to extract energy, but as of a person to contribute to the place. Sit there for an hour or 2 hours and meditate. No? And when I say meditate, you don't need to go into this another world of meditation. Reflect in yourself and just see that you are not a nuisance to the society. So when all my projects that I want to do are very emotional projects, I'm not going there just to build a hotel, make a nice little swimming pool, or have a nice restaurant. I want people to go there to feel a little bit, because it's become extremely difficult in this day and age to reflect because we have so little time. We wake up in the morning, the first thing that we do is we check the emails. When we check the emails, what are we doing? We are being a servant to someone else. The whole day, we are always a servant to the family, to your children, to your wife, husband, to the company that you work, to the company that you represent. And in all that, we have forgotten who we really are. So, Stacy, even if I ask you this question, who is Stacy? You will actually have to think to even tell who you are, because we have been wearing so many masks. And when you take off that mask and see yourself, we say like, oh my God, this is who I am. I've even forgotten what I really liked, what I love, because every time you go out and like even a simple thing of eating, you go out with your friends and you say like, what do you want to eat? And you end up eating and sharing from everybody's table. Like we've even forgotten what I really like to taste. Forget about feeling. Forget about spirituality. So we live in this world of so much chaos and demand, and we've forgotten ourselves. And when you forget yourself, your life has no meaning. So these are the places that I want to create. These are the places that I want people to feel.
I think I have a good sense of what you are trying to create. You're not creating just a business, but also a community.
Yep.
But also, you want to translate some of the vision. You just shared some ultimate questions like, who am I? It is beyond doing business, it is the ultimate spiritual question. And I think that's why you also founded the Museum of Nepali Art as a platform for modern and contemporary Nepali art. I guess you are sitting in the museum. Are you, or sitting in the art house?
And I'm sitting in a part of the museum. So this is our new gallery. If you look at it, so there are like different types of artwork that is going on here. This is actually in the garden. So we have three sections in the museum. One is, of course, the museum downstairs, which works with mainly with traditional art. And this is actually a space for contemporary art. And then, of course, we have the art house, which is dedicated totally for the artists and their studios and temporary exhibitions. And so a lot of things are happening.
At a time when Nepal faces enormous economic pressures and a significant brain drain, why did you make art your cause?
I did not make art my cause. It was a calling. You know, in 2018, I just decided to open up a museum because I felt something. It was a spur of the moment. It was not like since childhood I loved art, I loved culture, I loved the heritage, and I said like one day I'm going to make a museum. That was not even the cause. I actually did not believe or I did not like art prior to 2018. You know, something happened. It was literally 2 seconds. And I said, from tomorrow, I'm going to open up a museum. That is how it started, you know? So like anything in life, the beginning is always humble. I never collected art. I had no idea about how to run a museum. I had no idea about documentation. I had no idea about collecting. I had no idea about anything. If I may, I will share the story of what that moment was.
Yeah, please.
So I was sitting in a handicraft shop in Patan, which is the next city to Kathmandu for the people who haven't been to Nepal. So Kathmandu has three cities. It's the Kathmandu Valley, then the Patan, and then Bhaktapur. And each of the cities is only about 10, 15 minutes drive. It doesn't even look like three different cities. It's just all in one. So I was sitting in my friend's handicraft shop and I was just drinking a cup of coffee and, just chilling out. And somebody actually came into the shop and he said that just a couple of days ago, there was this really famous painting that got sold for $500,000 in Kathmandu of a young artist who was only at that time 40 years old. And then I got very excited. And I was like, wow, one painting of a living artist, early 40s, $500,000. because we hear about Nepalese art being sold in Christie's and Sotheby's and in auction houses for millions of dollars. But these are all either 6th century or 8th
Yeah,
century or 11th
antiques.
century artwork. Yeah, antiques. Yeah. I never heard about such a big amount, and I was so excited. So the guy who was selling the painting happened to be a friend of mine. So I just literally picked up the phone and I called him up and I said, like, I heard that you sold a painting of ABC artist for $500,000. Is it true? And he said, like, yeah, it's true. And I said, who the buyer is. And the guy was, oh, this is some Chinese from Shanghai. And we are still negotiating on the price. But yeah, it's on sale. Then I said, like, I got, I would like to see the painting. I know that you are still in negotiation. Can I come over to your house? I just want to see the painting, just for the sake of seeing the $500,000 painting. And that guy, although he is a good friend, he goes, no. And I said, why? Because the person who's planning to buy that artwork has already committed to it, and he has requested not to show this painting to anybody anymore. At that time, maybe it was ego, maybe it was anger. No, because I'm not showing off, but I am a prominent businessman here in Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
People do know me, and
Yeah.
when I said, that if I want, I can buy the painting, you know, and I just want to see it, and he said no. Now, then at that moment, ego aside, I said, if this is going to be happening, then we are going to lose our art culture and heritage. And our government at that time, of course, very corrupt. They have no sense of how to preserve art culture and heritage. The government is not going to do anything. Then I said, I'm going to open up a museum, literally. And that 5 seconds was the moment that I decided. Then, as soon as that came into me, I drove back to Kathmandu guest house. I called my wife, I called my sister, and I said, from tomorrow, I'm going to open up a museum. By 2020, we're going to open up this museum. And I told them, nobody interferes. This is my project. I felt so strong that because I've been in the tourism industry for such a long time, for 30 years. And when people come to Nepal, most of the time people come to Nepal to trek in the mountains, to see the art, culture, heritage. And I said, if tomorrow our art, culture, and heritage disappears, people are not going to come back because the mountains has been there for millions of years. You can see the Himalayas from the China, you can see it from India, you can see it from Bhutan, you can see it from Pakistan. People don't need to come to Nepal to see the Himalayas anymore. The only reason that people will come back to Nepal is for spirituality, is to see our art, culture, and heritage. And if I don't preserve this, today my hotel may be successful, but tomorrow, if these people don't start coming back, then no one is going to come to Nepal. My hotel is not going to be successful. So, although I had this big urge to protect our art, culture, heritage, it was also about protecting my business, you know, for the sustainability. Because tourism in Nepal supports a big ecosystem from the farmers, taxi drivers. Because Nepal is not an industrial country. So, tourism is very important to us. So, that is how it all started, you know. Then that night, I called up 20 of the best artists of Nepal. I personally took their phone numbers from my friends, from wherever. I said, like, okay, get me these 20 phone numbers. These are the 20 best artists of Nepal. I called them up and I said, I'm inviting you guys for lunch tomorrow. Everybody, please come. And I have a proposal. And because most of these people, of course, do know me through my reputation, through the businesses. So everybody came the next day, and I had set out like a big lunch table right in the garden of Kathmandu Guest House. I introduced myself and I said, I'm going to open up a museum that in 1.5 years' time, I'm going to collect art. I'm going to buy all your artworks that you guys are creating, and I will pay the price that your market is giving you. I don't want you to give it for me for cheaper price. I know because there's been a couple of incidences before where people had come to them and said like, oh, we want to buy your artwork because we're going to open up a museum. And they happen to buy it for very cheap price because they think the artists are naive. And I said, give me your market price. I don't care. That is how it started. Now, today we work with about 700 artists. And in the past 6 years, the museum has a good inventory that we've collected above 7,000 artworks, all Nepalese art. And one thing was very clear to me that if I build the museum is going to be dedicated and for living artists. I was not going to collect antiques. I'm not interested in antiques. So all the artwork that you see in the museum is all of living artists. So if anybody comes to my museum and they want to meet the artist, or they want to visit their studios, we give them their addresses, their email addresses, all the stuff. So the reason that we work with the living artist is two reasons. One is I want the artist to enjoy their creation. I want the artist to enjoy being an artist. And the other reason is, which is more important, is I want the living artist to motivate the next generation of artists. Because if the world did not have artists, we would have killed ourselves a long time ago. I think it is through their creation that beautify this world that we live in today. Everything that beautiful that we see today doesn't matter if it's furniture, building, whatever it is created by artists. So these artists will play such a big role in our lives. We may appreciate art, but we never thank the artist. And these artists are the unsung heroes. We know a couple of artists who's contributed greatly to the society, to the world. Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, whatever these guys are. And you've been to Nepal so many times. You felt the spirituality. No matter if you go to a monastery or you go to a temple. When you go inside a temple or a monastery, and you see a Buddha or a Lokeshwar or any kind of deity, we become spiritual. But when was the last time you sat down in front of that statue? I said, like, wow, some artists sat for hundreds of hours to create something that gives me a sense of meaning, because the gods didn't come to Kathmandu and they said, this is who I am, draw me, this is what I am. Nobody's seen God. It is an imagination of an artist that brings in that calmness in the face of any deity. And yet we become so ignorant about appreciating the creators. So my museum, I say, is not for art. It's for the creators of the art and to realize the importance, their contribution that makes our life a little livable.
First of all, that was the first time that I heard the story behind your museum.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you know how to work with your ego, actually, you can do great things in the world. And also, I had the privilege of visiting both the museum and art house and meeting some of the artists and seeing their work firsthand. The talent, craftsmanship, and depth of vision still stays with me. And also, so much of it is self-taught. You have clearly done a great deal to support these artists, but what do they still need to reach their full potential? Is it more formal, structured training in fine arts, a better understanding of how the international art market works, or is it really about exposure, an international perspective that connects their work to the wider world?
It's actually a very difficult question to answer because artists never follow a certain path. Like anything in life, there's no formula for success.
And also, especially for true artists.
Yeah, for true artists, if you give them a formula, then they are not artists anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very hypocritical for us to tell the artist what they should do or what they should not do, because they work with their heart and their soul, and they work with the freeness of the heart and the soul. I understand the question that you are saying, but I think the most important part is artists are not great storytellers. They know how to create, but they don't know how to tell the story. And this is where we come in the play as a museum to be able to be the bridge between the mass and the artist. So this is something that had been lacking, not only in Nepal, but anywhere else in the world. So when I talk to somebody who visits the museum, I lead the way just to give them a sense of what it is. Then I leave them behind so that people can also explore their own self into the art and how they resonate, because we all resonate differently. I may see the M on the white cup, but you will see the white cup and the M. We look completely different. I'm like, it's all the matter of perception. So I think what has been lacking in Nepal is, number one, is exposure. Because no matter how proud I am of my art and my culture of my country, everyone in the world has their own art, their own culture, and their own ethnic group and their own representation. And everybody is trying to be heard. Everybody. Doesn't matter if it's a small community in Nepal or if it's a small community in Africa. And we are all very proud of our own lineage. Doesn't matter if it comes from Buddhism or Islam or Christianity or Hinduism, whatever it is. So in this world, and art is always, not always, but art is mainly a representation of goodness. And so in this world of competition where everyone is trying to make themselves heard, and then there comes Nepal and there's a smaller community. So when we go to international platforms or when we go to international exhibitions, there's so much representation, you know, and it is difficult, but we are trying the best from our side. And like I said, I think the biggest challenge is storytelling, and the biggest challenge is how to platform ourselves so that the people can see what we do. So that is the number one challenge that I think Nepal has been facing, not only now, but since beginning of time. Of course, people do come to us when they have a certain exposure to Nepal or certain exposure to Buddhism or certain exposure to spirituality. They want to get in touch with themselves. People do discover us, but again, not enough. And yeah, so we're trying.
Yeah, I think what you have been doing is really to nurture the creativity and the talent there. And I think it will take some time.
I don't feel that I need to reach a certain mile. I don't feel that I'm running a game. So, like for me, I'm trying to do as much as I can within my time span. I'm not in a hurry. Whatever I do with the exhibitions, with the collecting of art, with talking to people, I do it at my own pace. We don't sell art. My museum does not sell art. I'm not here to sell my artwork. I'm not here to ask people to, come to my museum, pay entrance fees, come to my museum, come to my hotel, stay in my hotel. And that's not what I'm here for.
What you have been doing for the local artists and for the local communities is very inspiring for us to reconsider the role of art in our community. I think it also comes to another big question, what is art? Especially what is art for our society? I think you and me, we share the same idea that art should be about goodness. Art should be about spirituality. But if we look around in the mainstream art market, this may not always be the focus. So that's why one of the things that struck me most powerfully when I look at Nepali contemporary art is how present spirituality is, whether it comes from Buddhism, Hinduism, shamanism, or simply a deep relationship with the mother nature, even among the very young contemporary artists in Nepal. You also shared a lot about how spirituality shaped the way you lead in business, in your work with art, and also in your life. The last question, I want to talk about the future of Nepal because you sit at a rare intersection of hospitality, culture, heritage, and entrepreneurship. And you have watched Nepal navigate monarchy, civil war, the earthquakes,
Yeah,
and
I know.
now a republic still finding its footing. Now with the
Yeah.
new prime minister and a new chapter beginning, how do you see Nepal's next 10 years?
You're very right. I started taking over the business and also starting getting involved heavily in 1995. That is when I graduated from my university in the US. And the day that I landed here in Kathmandu, I started working. It seemed like in the past 30 years, we've seen, like you rightly said, from natural disasters to man-made disasters, to domestic problems, to regional problems, to international problems. I'm like, you name it, we've been a part of it for the past 30, 35 years. And being in the middle of it and trying to traffic myself within this environment has been extremely challenging, yet so fruitful. I think most of the stuff that we read in our textbooks as of history lessons is something that I have experienced in the past 30 years. And like you said, we've got a new government, amazing government. I think maybe one of the best government we've had since Nepal was a country. And not only that, we are setting up a precedent for trying to give a common man a seat, and because before it was all about nepotism. So the people that were in power, and is also how it has been. It's about the king has a son, the son becomes the next king. It was never about capacity. But now we see that the new government is here, and I cannot say about next 10 years. I cannot even say about tomorrow. But today, I feel that Nepal is in the golden era. We live in geopolitics, and today, no matter how independent I want to say Nepal is, we are neither is US, neither is India, neither is Hong Kong. We live in the world of geopolitics and the likes and the wants of bigger powers. Everybody is trying to be on top. It's in between India and China. But like I said, as of governance, democracy as of what it can be. I think, as far as I know, we are right now in the of time. And if Nepal wants to progress, able to handle this delicate situation diplomatically and work towards it. So I am very positive. Every day we get some amazing taking out new policies in order to create a better environment for us, for SMEs, for all the stuff. So we look very forward to it. And it seems that 30 years in Nepal has paid off as a citizen, as an entrepreneur, or of something better for the society.
I'm looking forward to see the positive changes that is going to happen in Nepal. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, Rajan. It really helps us to understand Nepal and also your own cultural heritage. And I look forward to seeing you soon again in Kathmandu. Thank you for listening to the Buddha Land podcast. Wherever you are, we're grateful that you showed up. Until next time.